another year and closed it down, and then they ran it for a while in Nature Physics.
I didn't know that.
Yes, and then he opened it up again in Nature, and it's been running for about 3 years non-stop, and
they're very good stories.
and no one's asking for it to be closed down anymore.
No.
Yeah.
If you don't mind me asking you both, what's your favourite personal stories? Last time we spoke at in great length, we were talking about the Cohen and how you mathematically proved that wives must have been nicking off with high-ranking Cohen
Yes.
for the paternal DNA to
Yes,
survive
that's
the
right,
way
yeah.
it did. So what would be your favourite stories from your own favourite papers or your works or whatever?
You mean science stories?
Yeah, basically, social science, whatever.
We don't have social science stories.
Sorry, what I mean, social aspect with science aspect.
I did a joint paper with a psychologist once about ambiguous perception. These ambiguous figures, the one that it looks like a rabbit and then it looks like a duck or a necker cube or things like that. And we did a catastrophe theory paper on how you switch between the two. And there's we predicted on the basis of the mathematics behind these things that there would be a kind of delay effect. So once you decide, if you took one that was sort of half either looked like a rabbit or a duck, but then you made a sequence of them where at one end it was very obviously a duck and it slowly morphed into this halfway figure and then it morphed into a rabbit. And then if you ran your eye along starting with duck, you would keep seeing it as a duck for as long as you could possibly manage before thinking, no, it's a rabbit.
Yeah.
And if you start at the other end, you work your way along, so it's a rabbit, it's a rabbit, it's a rabbit, it's a rabbit. You go long past the point where you change, and eventually you say, oh no, sorry, it's a duck.
Yeah.
And we predicted this and did experiments, and it works, but you can't run people through it twice because they learn.
It's a rabbit, it's a rabbit, it's a rabbit, it's a rabbit, it's deformed rabbit.
That's right. They learn so fast.
Is that confirmation bias?
It could be, but it's certainly, I mean, the standard experimental subject for this kind of work is the university undergraduate.
I'm afraid, yes.
Which means these days you have to get all sorts of permission to actually administer
Submit
questionnaires
them
to
to
And then find someone willing to do it. Yeah.
But the extraordinary thing about that is that this was done somewhere in the late 1970s, and I stopped doing that kind of thing. I went off and worked on all sorts of other stuff. And in the 1980s, I met an American mathematician called Marty Golubitzky, who was in Houston, Texas at the time, and went and worked with him for a year. And about half of our research papers ever since have been joint papers. We work together. We still get together every year. I'll be off to go and see him in the next few weeks. Now, a few years ago, he moved to run the Mathematical Biosciences Institute in Columbus, Ohio, which does mathematical biology. And he was really a mathematician with some interest in biology and with a good administrative record, which is why he got the job. But he's not really a mathematical biologist as such. But since getting the job, he is becoming a mathematical biologist. And he and a couple of other people, and now me, are working on a perceptual ambiguity effect, where if you show, think of a picture with 4 dots in a square, and show one eye 2 of the dots, and show the other eye the other 2 of the dots, and then ask people what they actually perceive. And you might think they put the whole thing together and you just see the square.
So they see 2 dots.
They see 2 dots and then it flips and they see the other 2 dots. Then it flips again and they see the first 2 dots.
Right.
Okay?
They don't see stereo.
No.
2 dots.
No. And there's anyway, Marty realised, talking to various people in the area, that the stuff we'd been working on the last few years, which was all to do with networks, could be applied to this problem because there's a kind of network of model neurons, nerve cell connections, which nerve cells are perceiving which bits of this image. And he also realised, he just phoned me up about it, that one of the classic experiments which nobody understands seems to fit this mathematical model.
Good.
And this particular one, it's take a rectangle and you have a picture of a rabbit on the rectangle and you divide it up like a jigsaw puzzle, like a two-piece jigsaw puzzle, and then you make another rectangle with the same two pieces but you put text on it instead. So you have some sentence that runs right the way across and breaks into pieces. So you have these two jigsaw puzzles, and then you mix them up so that you have a rectangle which has the left hand side is the rabbit and the right hand side is the bit of text. And then the second one, you have the missing bit of text coupled to the missing bit of rabbit.
Yeah.
And now you show those to the two eyes. And what most people perceive is they don't put the text together, they don't put the rabbit together, as you might expect. What they do is they see one of these images, left hand half rabbit, right hand half text, for a while, and then the rabbit bit turns into the corresponding text from the other one, and the text turns into the corresponding rabbit from the other one. So they're seeing the two images alternately and they stay mixed up. But just occasionally you get subjects who will say, it's a rabbit. Except after about 10 seconds they say, oh no, it's text. And read you the text. And say, oh, it's gone back to being a rabbit again. And it oscillates between the two. And Marty and his PhD student have just realised that this mathematical network model, if you set it up just the right way, predicts this phenomenon and explains it.
It's to do with stereo vision, presumably, as well.
Well, yes, and it's because the two
Images are...
the brain is, the visual cortex is perceiving both images and trying to make sense of them.
Yes.
But it's trying to make sense of them with a mechanism that was not designed to make sense of that particular experiment. So the idea is that you get some insight into how it works by showing it things that it's not used to processing. So you fool it into
when people
giving away what it's doing.
see that and they say, I can see half a rabbit and half a sentence and half a sentence and half a rabbit.
Yeah.
If they then are told, actually, it's a rabbit and a sentence, can they force themselves to see it?
No, most of them can't. They still the cortex does what it wants to do.
No, because I mean I know you can. You know, with
sometimes
the
you can train yourself.
You can force yourself, and you can.
You can actually look at a Necker cube and say, "I want it to flip."
Yes.
Because I've seen a documentary on those things on National Geographic some time ago where they do all these kind of eye